Have you ever said, I'm sorry, my English is bad? If you've ever said this, today's lesson is for you, because in this lesson, I'm going to tell you 7 reasons why this one phrase has been holding you back, keeping you stuck at the same level. But I'm also going to give you better, confident, alternative phrases that will help you never say, I'm sorry again, and finally speak English with confidence. Are you ready? Well then, let's jump right in. Reason number 1. You're the only one who thinks your English is bad. This is the first real reason you have to stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. You're the only one who thinks this. Let me break this down for you even more. You see, the person you're talking to was just focused on what you were going to say. But now, because of your apology, they're focused on your English. You just handed them a microscope and pointed it at the one thing you didn't want them to look at. Prior to you saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad, they were simply listening to you, waiting for your next phrase, waiting for your next thought. But now they're listening to your English mistakes, waiting for the next mispronounced word. Let me give you an example of a real life dialogue. Here's the setting, a job interview. The candidate has just been invited to introduce herself. The interviewer says, so, tell me a little bit about your background and why you applied for this role. Anna, okay, sure. Sorry, my English is bad, so please be patient with me. The interviewer pauses and shifts in his seat. Oh, no, it's okay. Take your time. Just say whatever you can. Anna, thank you. So I have 5 years of experience in marketing. The interviewer, nodding slowly, listening closely for mistakes now instead of content. All because Anna said, I'm sorry, my English is bad. Now, here's a better phrase that Anna should use or should have used, and one you should use. The better phrase is, thanks, let me jump in. You see, why does this phrase in this situation work better? You claim the floor instead of asking for it. When you say, thanks, let me jump in. You see, your brain gets the signal that you belong in this conversation, and your body follows. Your shoulders drop. Your breath slows. Your first sentence comes out cleaner. You stop apologizing for being the person everyone is waiting to hear from. Start by saying, thank you, thanks, let me jump in. This is a much better way to respond. Now, why does this work for them, the interviewer listening to you? You see, the interviewer will now stay focused on your experience, not your English. You sound like someone who came prepared. They lean in to hear your story instead of bracing to be patient with you. You see the shift, right? Now watch what happens to the dialogue when we replace it with the new phrase, thanks, let me jump in. So again, we're speaking about a job interview and the candidate has just been invited to introduce herself. The interviewer says, so, tell me a little about your background and why you applied for this role. Anna now says, thanks, let me jump in. I have 5 years of experience in marketing. The interviewer now leans in, taking notes, and says, great, go on. You see that subtle change, right? Anna didn't make an excuse. Anna didn't say, I'm sorry, my English is bad. She said, thanks, let me jump in. This is why it's so powerful to simply jump in. Don't make excuses. Don't apologize. Just start speaking. And this will impress the interviewer saying, you're actually really ready for this interview. In their mind, they will say this. So the first reason is you're the only one who thinks your English is bad. Reason number 2, the people listening to you speak more than one language are impressed, not critical. Again, the people listening to you, recognizing that you're speaking more than one language, they're impressed. They're not critical. Let me break this down for you. You see, most people who hear a non-native speaker are thinking, wow, I wish I could do that in another language. You imagine that they're grading you, but they're not. They're usually a little bit in awe. Your apology, though, asks them to feel sorry for you when the honest reaction is respect. As they listen to you, knowing that you're not a native speaker, they're saying, man, this is amazing. But then you say, no. Sorry, my English isn't good. And it snaps them out of that. And now they're basically saying, okay, I guess they want me to feel sorry for them. Let me give you an example dialogue. Here's the setting. A networking event after an industry conference. And there's two contacts, tongue twister, have been speaking or have been talking for a few minutes. The new contact says, wait, are you from Brazil originally? Your English is really good. Luisa, oh, thank you, but I'm sorry. My English is not that good. I still make a lot of mistakes. The new contact softens the tone. The smile turns a little more careful. No, really, you're doing great. Louisa responds and says, thank you. The new contact, now speaking slightly slower, choosing simpler words, says, so, what kind of work do you do exactly? Louisa's response, saying, oh, I'm sorry, my English is not good, changed how the new contact responded to her. Here's the phrase Louisa should have used in the situation and the phrase you should use moving forward. The better phrase is, English is my second language and I love using it. Again, English is my second language and I love using it. I'm changing the narrative. You know that it's not my first language, but I'm letting you know I feel good, I feel positive, I feel confident about my ability to speak this second language. So here's the better phrase explanation, why it works for you. You accept the fact instead of rejecting it. It's a fact. English is not your first language. It's your second, third, fourth, or maybe even your fifth language. You're accepting that fact. So your brain stops treating the conversation like a test and starts treating it like an opportunity. The warmth in the phrase loosens your shoulders before you even finish saying it. English is my second language. I love using it. Now, what about the other person listening to you? Why it works for them? You see, they now hear someone who is proud, not nervous. They don't downshift their vocabulary or slow their speech. The conversation stays at your real level instead of the level they think you need. They're in awe. Wow, I love it. Yes. So this is what the conversation or the dialogue would sound like with the rewrite. New contact. Wait, are you from Brazil originally? Your English is really good. Luisa, thank you. English is my second language and I love using it. New contact. Genuine grin. That's awesome. So what kind of work do you do exactly? The conversation naturally continued and the new contact did not slow down their speech. Why? Because Louisa, instead of apologizing, instead of saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad, Louisa said, you know what? English is my second language and I love it. The person listening to her, the person having this conversation with her now is saying, wow, I love it. This leads us to reason number 3. Reason number 3 is it makes the conversation about you instead of what you came to say. When you constantly apologize saying my English is bad, the person will stop listening to your content and will now focus on you and your English ability. Let me break this down even more. You came to share an idea, a question, a point of view. The moment you apologize, though, the topic becomes your English. The meeting was about the project. The interview was about your experience. The dinner was about connecting, but now it's about whether your English is okay. You just lost the floor before you stood on it. This is why you have to stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. I want you to check out this real life dialogue. The setting is a team meeting. The project manager has just opened the floor for input on a proposal. The project manager says, Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. Any concerns about the timeline before we move forward? Hiroshi. Actually, yes. I want to say something. Sorry, my English isn't very good, so let me try. Teammate number 1, with an encouraging nod, says, go ahead, take your time. Teammate number 2 says, yeah, no pressure. Hiroshi says, okay, so I think the second phase is too short because, and the conversation continues. However, the teammates are focused on Hiroshi's English ability instead of Hiroshi's thoughts on the project. Why? We can also see the project manager's response. The project manager, eyes are now glancing at the clock. 3 minutes have already gone by. The project manager's body language has even changed. Here is an alternative phrase, a better phrase. The phrase is, here's what I want to say. Instead of saying, sorry, my English is bad, Hiroshi should say, here's what I want to say. Now, why does this work for you as an English learner? Why this works? You see, you name your point before you explain it, which forces your brain to focus on the content instead of your importance or performance. You stop apologizing for taking up space and you start using the space. The phrase is short enough to say cleanly, even when you're nervous. Here's what I want to say. Just say it. And this is how this phrase affects those who are listening to you. The room gets oriented immediately. They know you have something real to contribute. No one is watching the clock. They're listening for your point, which is exactly where you wanted their attention in the first place. Not on your English ability, but on your idea, what you want to say. Now let's hear how the dialogue would sound with the replacement alternative phrase. Project manager. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. Any concerns with the timeline before we move forward? Hiroshi. Here's what I want to say. I think the second phase is too short because now the project manager is nodding and saying, go on, Hiroshi, go on. Why? Because Hiroshi is now allowing the focus to be on the idea, the content, the project, and not on the English skill he lacks or has. This is why it's so important for you to stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. It takes the focus off of the important information and puts it on you, leading us to reason number 4. You're asking permission to be taken seriously. This is not what you want. When you say, I'm sorry, my English is bad, you're literally asking them to take you seriously. Let me break this down. Every time you open with, sorry, my English is bad, you're asking the other person to decide whether you deserve a real conversation. You're handing them the power to be patient with you or not. Confident speakers don't ask for that permission. They just start talking. You are going to be a confident speaker moving forward. You're going to stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. You're going to just speak. I want you to listen to this real life dialogue. The setting is a client call. The client has just asked a direct question about pricing. The client. So, can you walk me through how you arrived at this number? I want to understand the breakdown. Dimitri. Yes, of course. Sorry, my English is not so good. So if I say something unclear, please tell me. Client, kind of neutral and waiting. Sure. Dimitri. So the pricing is based on 3 main factors. The client. Listening, but with a slight edge now, wondering if this call is going to be harder than expected. By Dimitri saying, I'm sorry, my English is not so good, the client's focus now is on Dimitri's ability as opposed to the content. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, my English isn't good or my English is bad, Dimitri should have said, let me tell you what I think. This is the better phrase. Let me tell you what I think. Now, what happens to you as the English learner when you say this? What happens is why it works for you. You move from asking permission to claiming your seat at the table. You're not defending your right to speak. You're stepping into the role of someone with a point of view worth hearing. That mental shift changes your tone instantly, and your voice drops into a calmer, more grounded register. Let me tell you what I think. Now, what happens to the person listening to you? Why it works for them? You see, the client now hears a professional, not a person worried about being understood. They relax. The call feels collaborative instead of cautious. You've set the tone as the expert in the room, which is exactly what they're paying for. It changes everything. Stop saying, "I'm sorry, my English is bad." Now let's listen to the dialogue with this alternative, better phrase. Here we go. The client. So, can you walk me through how you arrived at this number? I want to understand the breakdown. Dimitri, let me tell you what I think. The pricing is based on three main factors. The client now leaning back, settling in. Perfect. Go ahead. Now the client is impressed. Now the client feels confident in Dimitri's ability to deliver what he says he can deliver. And Dimitri sees the client's body language change. Or if they're on the phone, hears the client kind of settling in and following along as he's speaking. Why? Because he didn't say, "I'm sorry, my English is bad." Now we have reason number 5. You're training your brain to expect failure. When you say, "I'm sorry, my English is bad," you're literally training your brain to, hey, you're going to fail. This is what it is. Let me break it down some more for you. The words you say out loud shape the way your brain shows up. If you announce that your English is bad, your brain starts looking for evidence that you're right. You'll notice every stumble, every word you forget becomes proof. You spoke your fear into the room, and now you have to speak around it. What you say matters. So I want you to listen to this real life dialogue. Here's the setting. A conference presentation. The speaker has just stepped to the microphone during the Q&A. Audience member. Thanks for the talk. Can you explain the second framework you mentioned in a bit more detail? Priya. Yes, sure. Sorry, my English is bad when I have to explain something complicated, so bear with me. She pauses. Her mind goes blank on the words she wants. She stumbles. She hears herself stumble. She tells herself, "See, I knew it." The next word comes harder than the next. Priya then speaks. The framework is, it's kind of, how do you say? Everything starts to spiral simply because Priya said, "Sorry, my English is bad." The better phrase that Priya should have used is, "Give me a second. I want to say this well." Priya could have responded, "Give me a second. I want to say this well." There's nothing wrong with this phrase. Now, why does this work for Priya or for you as an English learner? This is why this phrase works. You give yourself permission to pause without labeling the pause as a failure. Woo! I love this line. You give yourself permission to pause, and you don't label that pause as a failure. I am a native English speaker. I'm your English teacher. I pause for effect. I pause when I want to gather my thoughts. It does not mean I am failing. So you have to remember, you're so intelligent. Your pausing does not indicate a failure. Continuing, your brain gets a task. For example, say this well, instead of a warning, you're about to mess up. The thinking pause becomes a sign of care, not a sign of struggle. When you say, "Give me a second, I want to say this well," the people in the audience, people around you will say, "I like that he's taking the time or she's taking the time to gather her thoughts." How does this affect them? Why it works for them? The audience reads the pause as thoughtfulness. They sit forward, curious about what you'll say next. The room's energy stays with you instead of shifting into that uncomfortable, "Are they going to be okay up there?" feeling. saying the right phrase is powerful. Stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. So let's check out the dialogue now with this new phrase. Audience member, thanks for the talk. Can you explain the second framework you mentioned in a bit more detail? Priya, give me a second. I want to say this well. She pauses, she breathes. So the framework works in stages where each stage builds on the one before it. And the audience member now nods and proceeds to take notes. All simply because Priya, instead of saying, sorry, my English is bad, or making an excuse, she said, give me a second. I want to say this well. Now, did you notice that I just paused for effect and you didn't feel like it was a failure? You didn't feel like your teacher wasn't going to teach you. No, there is power in pausing. Reason number 6. You're performing a version of yourself that isn't real. When you constantly say, I'm sorry, my English, it's bad, it's not good, you're not really being yourself. Let me break this down. In your own language, you're funny. You're sharp. You have opinions. You don't shrink. The sorry, my English is bad version of you is a character, a smaller, quieter, more apologetic person than who you actually are. Every time you perform that character, the real you gets further and further away. Stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. Let me give you a real life dialogue. Here's the setting, a work dinner. Colleagues are sharing stories and laughing. The group turns to her. Colleague, okay, your turn. So what's the craziest thing that's happened to you on a work trip? May. I have a story, but sorry, my English is not good enough to tell it properly. It's better in Chinese. Colleague gives a polite smile and says, oh, no worries, no worries. Then the group waits for a moment. The conversation moves on. May smiles and nods. She had a funny, sharp story. In Chinese, everyone would have been laughing. Instead, she became quieter for the rest of the meal. All because she said, I'm sorry, my English isn't good enough. My English is bad. Instead, Mai should have used this phrase. She should have said, okay, here we go. With confidence, okay, here we go. Why does this phrase work for May? And why will it work for you? This is the reason. You step fully into yourself before you start speaking. There's no hedging, no softening, no warning label. Your brain goes from, can I do this in English, to here I am. And that second version is the real you. The phrase is a small, clean commitment to show up as who you actually are. Step into who you are. Now, why does this phrase, okay, here we go, work for the people listening to you? It works because the group leans in. They're ready to listen because you sound ready to speak. Your confidence sets the tone, and suddenly your English level doesn't matter. Your energy does. Even a rough telling of a funny story lands when the storyteller is present. So how would the dialogue sound with this replacement phrase? Colleague, okay, your turn. What's the craziest thing that's happened to you on a work trip? May. Okay, here we go. So I was in Frankfurt and the taxi driver thought I was someone else entirely. Colleagues already laughing. Why? Because May just jumped right into it and said, okay, here we go. She took full advantage, said, listen, this is what's about to happen, and everyone leaned in. She didn't say, sorry, my English isn't good. She didn't say, sorry, my English is bad. She didn't make an excuse for her English. She just spoke. Which leads us to reason number 7. You don't need to be perfect to be worth listening to. Stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. You don't have to be perfect in order to be listened to. Let me break this down for you. This is the one underneath all the others. You've been carrying a quiet belief that your voice only counts when your English is flawless. It doesn't work that way. Not for you, not for anyone, including me. Even for you in your own language, it's okay. The people who are listened to aren't the people who speak perfectly. They're the people who speak like what they're saying matters. When you stop apologizing, you're not pretending your English is perfect. You're deciding that perfect was never the price of being heard. You're speaking because you have something to say. I want you to listen to this real life dialogue. Here's the setting: a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher has just opened the meeting. The teacher: thanks so much for coming in today. How are things going at home? Sophia: thank you for meeting with me. Sorry, my English is bad, so if I don't say it clearly, please tell me and I'll try again. Teacher: of course, take your time. Sophia: my daughter, she has been crying before school and I don't know why, and I want to understand. Teacher: the teacher's listening kindly, but now also listening for how clearly Sophia is speaking, slightly distracted from the actual concern, all because Sophia said, sorry, my English is bad. So what's the better phrase? What could Sophia have said? Instead, Sophia should have said, I want to say this in my own words. This is a powerful phrase. I want to say this in my own words. Now, why does this phrase work for Sophia and for you as an English learner? Here's why this works. You claim the right to be heard on your own terms. Your brain moves from, am I going to sound okay, to, this is mine to say. You're not promising perfection. You're promising honesty. That's a much lighter thing to carry into the conversation. I'm promising you that I will be honest. But what about the person listening to you? How will it affect them? Why does this phrase work for them? The teacher hears a parent who is serious about her child and present in the moment. They give you their full attention. There's no filter of, let me be extra patient. Just two adults talking about a kid they both care about. This is why the phrase is so powerful. So now, what will the dialogue sound like with this better phrase? The teacher: thanks so much for coming in today. How are things going at home? Sophia: thank you for meeting with me. I want to say this in my own words. My daughter has been crying before school and I don't know why. I want to understand what's happening. The teacher, sitting forward, fully present, says, thank you for telling me. Let's talk about it. Using the better phrase instead of saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad, led to the teacher paying attention more. My friend, you have to stop saying, I'm sorry, my English is bad. I believe in you, and I want you to believe in yourself.